Hello and welcome back to the Time to Calibrate podcast. We're already on episode 21. It feels like time has flown by since that first time we heard from Marc, who came up with the idea to begin with. And speaking of which, I'm joined here by co-hosts, freelance writer Marc Levesque and Brent Robillard from the Calibrated Wrist. It's a hostful episode today, which is always fun. And the topic of conversation is watch events. We don't get to see each other very often in person, the three of us, so we're all very excited to be going out to the Vancouver Timepiece Show later this week. So let's kick things off as we usually do with wrist checks. Marks, what's your choice for the day?
I've got my IWC Aqua Timer on.
Nice.
Still loving this one. It's a lot of fun. It's a great watch. It's keeping great time. The silver dial is very summery. I'm totally in love with it.
Did you get that in a trade, or how did you end up getting that one?
I had my Tudor Black Bay Pro for a while, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And, we're stupid, right? We keep on looking for other watches, even when we don't need other watches. And I stumbled on an offer for this watch on canwatchco.ca. I don't know if you guys frequent that website. It's like a watch you seek, but for Canada.
I'll have to check that
all
out.
the collectors there, they're all within our borders, so it's no customs, no duties, and all that stuff. And I've always been a fan of Aqua Timer. It was one of my first high-end, quote-unquote, dive watches back in the early 2000s. And I've always liked the silver one. I was curious about that inner rotating ratcheting bezel. And lo and behold, there it was. And I wound up making a trade for my Black Bay plus something else. I don't remember what it is. And basically didn't cost me anything. And I wound up getting the Aqua Timer. Very pleased.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Brent?
Well, actually, Marc and I are both wearing beasts of watches this morning. I've got on my my Omega Speedmaster 125, actually. And the reason I put it on today wasn't just because it's Tuesday, but Stephen Nichols, whom you guys both know as, talking about time, on Instagram, and he also writes for the Calibrated Wrist. He posted an interesting thing yesterday about having sold his his professional, and then gone back and got himself one of the Speedmaster automatics. And that was kind of a hot take. Most people would sort of opt for the Pro, but then I thought, it's kind of interesting. There are quite a few Speedmasters out there that I really like that aren't the professional, like the Mark II and Mark IV and then that sort of thing. So I felt inspired and put this one on this morning. What about you, Bob?
So I think it was last week or the week before, I ended up, this is kind of crazy, but I had one of those random Amazon gift cards that you end up with over the holidays and different, I don't even know where I got the thing, but I was scrolling through Amazon for cheapies and I found this Timex Ironman 8-lap reissue. I've been wearing this thing like almost every single day. It's a little bit thinner, quite a bit thinner than a lot of G-Shocks, and it just gives me the nostalgic feels a little bit. So an affordable but fun watch.
Yeah, so Brent and I are wearing watches over 200 grams, and you're wearing one that's barely 50.
Yeah, probably. It's probably under 50, but... So I just thought it'd be kind of fun since we're going away next week. I figured maybe we could talk a little bit about what watches you guys are packing up for the trip, and if there's any watches or brands you're possibly looking to bring home from the trip while you're there. Anything you think you might pick up, Marc?
Well, I'm I was going to wear my Isotope Hydrium for the entire trip since I'm working with Jose, and unfortunately, Brent did not return my.
How did I know this was coming?
So, I don't know. I'd love to take my Aqua Timer with me. It's probably better to take my Grand Seiko because it's UTC GMT. I could switch the time easily. I want to bring my Marathon because there's a marathon event on the Sunday. I don't know. I really don't know. I'll probably just wear my Aqua Timer and then right wrist the Hydrium while I'm working, and I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a plan, I think.
What about you, Brent?
I normally don't do too much planning. And so like, the morning of or the night before, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe you, and I'll throw a few in. I do think like Marc says, I think I'll bring one of the marathons because I'm going to that event as well on Sunday. And I'd like to represent the Canadian brand, of course. I might bring one of my RZEs too, because it's a brand I really appreciate. And we have a sort of a long-standing relationship with them. And then I'll probably bring one of my more favorite pieces, maybe the Omega Seamaster 300M, or maybe the Longines Legend Diver. I'm not sure. Maybe, like I say, 2 or 3.
Nice.
What about you, Bob?
I'm working with Zanea, Jason's brand, the founder or the producer of the show. So I'll be bringing my Zanea for sure. Probably going to bring this. I'm not sure if there's going to be any outdoorsy little things, adventures happening. So I'll probably bring the Ironman 2 and maybe one other one, maybe the marathon. So one thing I'm especially looking forward to is from you, Brent, seeing your new magazine at the show. Can you tell us a little more on that? What was the process like, and was that something you've been working on for quite a while? It's a huge accomplishment, so congratulations, and can't wait to see it in person.
Hey, thanks very much. And, guys, I have to thank you both individually, too, because you've also contributed to the magazine. Bob, you've got some shots that are in there, some photography, and Marc, you wrote one of the articles. And, it's that kind of collaboration that I think is going to make this a success moving forward. There's a lot of the watch fam that are great writers and that are great photographers. And I think this would be a wonderful venue for them moving forward. Boy, before this episode started, Marc and I were having a little conversation before you joined us, Bob. And I said, I'm not the kind of guy who loses sleep over things very often, but this project made me have so many sleepless nights, whether it was, is it going to turn out right? What will printing be like? Will we have enough time for things to be shipped, et cetera, et cetera? Because as you say, we did start this quite a while ago, but a magazine is a pretty Herculean effort. And, Caroline did all of the layout and the design, and it was new software for her. And we had a lot of content creation, and we had a lot of brands that were participating. So they were sending us stuff, and you can set a deadline, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to follow it. So we were like, banging on email doors and saying, hey, what about this? What about this? And so finally it's kind of came together at the 11th hour, and a lot of people on our end pulled together with the copy editing and things like that. So, and you know what, I have to give a shout out to Mixum.ca, who is the printer of the magazine. They were fantastic to work with. They were bending over backwards to make sure we had the advanced copies for Geneva. And I really feel confident, and I should maybe touch wood here, that everything will be delivered on time to Vancouver this week. So yeah, it was quite a process, and I'm just super happy that so many brands bought into the idea. And I really think that some people might say it's crazy to be moving backward into print, but I feel like there's a bit of a renaissance around that idea of print and print magazines in general. So I'm hoping that holds true for us here.
Yeah, like records, right? There's a renaissance a bit for...
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm not talking about, things that are distributions of 100,000 or something like that. I'm talking about, for diehard enthusiasts, this is something that will go directly into their hands. And I think that for that particular reason, it will be successful, not biting off more than we can chew.
For people that are going to the show, attendees of the show, and non-attendees, like, how do they get this magazine? Like, how can people get the physical copy of that?
Yeah, I mentioned on a previous episode that what we were really hoping to do was to give it directly into people's hands, whether it be at a show or maybe like what you and Jason are doing with Alon Solutions, that a watch club event would have access to them. But one night, Marc and I were in Montreal, and we were with Richard Martel and a couple of other guys at the IWC opening that boutique, and they were saying, "Hey, but we're not going to be at the show, and we really would like to have a copy." And so Caroline and I and the team here, we had a discussion afterwards, and we said, you know what, well, why don't we open it up for subscriptions? So what we're going to do is for each launch, for example, this one in Vancouver, we've opened up a pre-order for subscriptions and individual magazines, and those will ship right after the show. So I think it's on May 2nd that they're going to ship out to those individuals. So the people at the show will still get first dibs and get a chance to see it firsthand and first, and then we'll be mailing out those other ones afterwards. So it's actually been pretty popular. We only opened the subscription door last week, and been pretty happy about that. So those are the kind of the two ways to get your hands on a copy, unless of course you're a contributor like you two gentlemen. You'll get one directly.
Sweet.
I've got an idea for you, Brent. What you should do is, you remember how those old magazines when we were teenagers, they were kind of not supposed to have, in the middle there was like a centerfold? Well, how about a centerfold, but it's a tattooed wrist shot?
Oh, think about that.
And people can have their posters in their bedrooms or their aspirational watches.
Absolutely. I'll be everybody's pinup boy.
There you go. Pinup wrist.
That's great.
So Mark and I have a bit of a different experience coming our way than you do, Brent. Well, I'm going to be working again with Zenea Watches, the producer of the show. Can't speak this morning. We're actually sharing space with Duckworth Press Tech, so it'll be nice to get to know Neil, the owner, a little better over the weekend. You, Mark, are going to be with my favorite person in the industry, Jose from Isotope Watches. I know you're a big fan of the brand. You must be really excited about that.
Yeah, I had so much fun with Jose last year at the Toronto show, getting to know him better and spending some quality time with him. And remember that evening on Saturday night, Brent, when we came back from the marathon event and we had drinks with Jose and with Jason, and we were talking about metal detecting and everything else under the sun and watches. And that was just such a fun time. I'm so looking forward to it. And I'm meeting Jose on Friday morning. I'm landing. I'm meeting him at the hotel. We're gonna have lunch, catch up, and then go and do the setup at the show. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So much fun. The best part of his watch is discovering the little details that you miss when you initially see the pictures online, right? On some of the Hydrium watches, the little goutte that's on the bezel lights up around the steel part instead of having a lume plot. It's just a circle. These silly little details are just so impressive, and they're not silly by any means. They're just super fun, and showing people these details, pointing them out and seeing their faces light up when they say, oh wow, that is so cool. I had no plans on working with Jose when I got there last year, and Bob, it was kind of your gig that I sort of stepped your toes on, but you were busy, you're being pulled in many directions, and I needed some place to hang out, so I hung up with him, and I learned about all these little details, and I think I sold a few of his watches for him at the same time. So it was a great time. I'm really looking forward to it.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That evening that you mentioned there was like, it was well after midnight, I guess, at that point when we were sitting down. That was one of my, and it remains to this day, one of my best memories about that whole show.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
Very cool.
And it was completely serendipitous. We just walked into the hotel, and Jose and Jason were sitting at the next to the bar at a table. And I just walked up with Caroline and I said, can we sit with you? And we sat down, and it was amazing. We had nowhere to go. We were staying at the hotel. The show was at the hotel the next day. Didn't matter how late we went to bed because the show was at 11, I think, the next day or something like that. So it was fine. It was magical. Absolutely magical. It was so much fun.
That's cool.
We've been teasing this for the last few episodes, talking about your trip to the UK. And we've been wanting to ask you about it, and we didn't have much time because we had guests and so forth. And you spoke a bit to it, but how about going a little more details here? How was the trip at British Watchmakers Day event? And did you attend any other events in around the show? Did you buy anything? Did you go visit anywhere?
Yeah. So one little tidbit, I just want to tie back into the Isotope thing, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the trip. But I had a dinner, and you were talking about the little hidden details with his watches. So I had a dinner with Jose and his wife, and Jason was also there, and a couple other people. But he showed me an Easter egg on the Moonshot, the chronograph. He sent these watches out to different people. Nobody's ever discovered this. On the underside of the chronograph pushers, you'll have to see, and you can only really see it with a loop probably, but there's actually the play pause engraving like you'd find on a VCR on the stop start button, and then a rewind, little rewind logo on the reset button. Anyways, very cool detail, and he said not one person has ever noticed that. So now look out for that if they ever see it. But yeah, it was an awesome trip. We started off in Maidenhead, did a tour of Christopher Ward, which was amazing to see. There's something that you're going to be talking about, I think, a little bit later, Mark. Oh,
you got to see it?
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll get to that in a little bit. We'll save that one for later. But that was really cool. Cool little small town. I was traveling with Jason from the Timepiece Show. We were traveling together, saving a little money on costs and trying to work on this new project that we have in the works that we might talk about a little later here too. But so the Maidenhead thing was cool. The show was amazing. There's so many people, recognizable people there. You know, Andrew McCutcheon and Adrian Barker serving up coffees, and everybody's so approachable. Watch Gringa walking around, Andrew Morgan. Like it was a little kind of like the Toronto show, but a little bit on steroids. I thought, like in that way, there was just so many recognizable personalities there, so that was really neat. The show was incredible. It's a very cool venue. Very similar vibe to the Toronto show, not pretentious. Everybody was just having a good time. And you were talking about the shows surrounding the British Watchmakers Day. There was a Worn and Wound / Arkin, sort of a pub night that was a lot of fun. Met a couple of listeners of the podcast there, which was really cool. There was also the Time and Tide event that they put on with that Time and Tide's boutique. They put on with Fears and Studio Underdog, who had the gimlet that came out, and they were serving up gimlets there. So that was
that's cool.
That was a lot of fun. It was a bit of a whirlwind. It's one of those things where you're jet lagged the whole time. You land and hit the ground running. You're there for 4 days, gone. I did go shopping. So Jason follows this vintage watch shop called Lucky Time Watches. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them or not.
No.
Give them a follow on Instagram. These guys are hilarious. They have some really good reels on Instagram. So Jason wanted to go check that out. He bought a Longines, a solid gold Longines. Can't remember which model it was.
I think I saw your reel on Instagram for it.
Yeah, a vintage piece. And I was like just about to walk out the door, and I have it right here actually. This little skin diver kind of caught my eye, and I it's a bit of a mystery. It has the name of the watch is completely flaked off, so there's no identifying anything. We even opened it up, had a trouble identifying the movement, but it looked cool. It was 60 pounds, bought it, runs okay, and just a fun watch. So yeah, that was the basic rundown of the trip from again, it was a little bit of a blur with the jet lag, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, you mentioned all the stars, in our little universe at the British Watchmakers Show, but we can't discount that we're going to have Bob Allaby at the Toronto Timepiece Show. We got James Stacey that's going to be running around, and let's not forget the Dansum.
That's
going to be running around. So we've got our own personalities.
Plus, we got Brent's famous wrist, the centerfold wrist will be there.
There you go. Centerfold wrist. That's going to start. I'm going to start that.
Well, Bob, like our own Timepiece shows here in Canada, the British Watchmakers is a kind of a fledgling event. It's only in its second year, but there's a cool trend that some of those brands have started, which is they have those very show-specific and limited releases. You mentioned one just a second ago, actually, and some of them are pretty spectacular. Was there anyone that stood out to you while you were there?
So there's a couple of ones that were cool, and some of it was more so the surrounding, like the marketing to do with the watch than the watch itself. And all the watches were great, but the one that was kind of neat, there's a couple I'll mention, but the mission to Maidenhead was kind of cool. They had little slogans like, "It's so limited, you're going to have to be a speed master to, to pick this thing up." And they had the truck driving around that said, O.mega with the picture of this Mission to Maidenhead watch.
I saw that.
Yeah, and it was actually doing laps around the building where they hold the British Watchmakers Day show all day long, but they did get some shots of it in front of the Omega boutique there and stuff. It was kind of a funny little tongue-in-cheek release. The big show stealer was the gimlet from Fears and Studio Underdog. I think the price was right. It was like I think it was 1,000 on the dot pounds. They did 100. So the show's broken up into a morning and an afternoon session. So I think they released 100 in the morning, all sold out, and then 100 in the afternoon and all sold out. I was tempted by that one, but it's one of those trips where we're spending a little bit of extra money, and I kind of was like, I'm not going to go too crazy on the watch purchases, but that was extremely tempting to pick that watch up. The other one was the Isotope, that marquetry dial. The blue, hopefully you get to see that in person, because the blue,
I think he has a couple left.
Does he? Yeah, the blue and red just is so vibrant on that. I'd love to get it under the macro lens actually to see like the details up close, but that's a beautiful watch. It's almost a metallic look to the finish of that dial. That was definitely a standout too.
Wow, that's great. What about you, Mark? Did you admire anything from afar?
Yeah, well, that gimlet from Fears and Studio Underdog is spectacular, and for a Fears, that's a steal of a price. They're usually in the 3,000 plus range ish. Studio Underdog, a little cheaper, but I think the combination of the transparent gimlet colored dial, it's a beautiful watch. It's fantastic. Of course, the marquetry dials from Isotope, I can't wait to see them. Hopefully he still has a few and get to play with them at the Vancouver show. One that really stood out for me is one that I wrote about for One and Wound was the Bowcroft Element British Watchmakers Day art piece that had artists draw or create layers of color on a dial. I'm not usually a fan of watches that don't have any markers, because I'm too stupid to be able to read it. But this one in particular looked really, really good. And now that Bowcroft has sent us a watch to review, and I've had a chance to play with it, their finishing for the price is off the chart. Just like Adam said last episode, we're in a golden age of micro brands and what's capable at this price point. It's really, really fun. So that Bowcroft for me really stood out.
Yeah, I did see that one in person too. That was a really nice watch. That's like just an easy wearing watch. Whether you go with that one or one of their standard models, those are nice watches. I think they're in Vancouver too, are they not?
Yes, they are. Unfortunately, only Matt will be able to go to the Vancouver show. They emailed me, so looking forward to meeting him in person finally. What about you, Brent?
Well, I feel like a broken record here, but for me, it was the gimlet as well, and I did get a chance to actually see it when I was in Geneva at the Beau Rivage, and it's every bit as beautiful as it looks in the renders. So for me, that was definitely it, because more than even just the execution of the watch, I find that the blending of the two brands is so interesting, because on one hand, you have this very upscale feel to something like Fears, and then on the other hand, you have this very playful vibe that comes from Studio Underdog, and yet there couldn't be a more perfect marriage of the two, really.
Also, we were talking about the Christopher Ward, their little marketing with their release. What they were doing too, where they did the switch between the two owners of the brands and stuff. That was hilarious how they worked that out ahead of the release of that watch.
The marriage of Studio Underdog and Fears is a much better match than Studio Underdog and Moser, because he had done a collaboration as well, and that's just a little too far upscale for Studio Underdog. I get it; they made the purple watches and they're beautiful and all, but it didn't work for many collectors, and it upset a bunch of people. I'm telling you, we on Warner and Wound, the articles that surrounded those releases were, they don't get a lot of comments like Hodinkee does and other places, but the comments they got on those pieces were vile. It wasn't good.
Well, it's interesting because, yeah, I would have to agree that definitely the marriage between those two brands is better, but I did see also one of those Moser collabs, and I have to say that up close, it's pretty spectacular too.
Did you see the Moser collaboration, the Moser watch version, or did you see the Studio Underdog version?
The Studio Underdog, yeah, the Studio Underdog version, yeah.
So speaking of shows, Brent, you recently just mentioned, but you just got back from Geneva, the big one. And other than Watches and Wonders, there's a lot happening. The shows I've been to, I find it's a small world. Like I mentioned before, there's so many familiar faces. It's easy to connect with people and brands. Is it a similar vibe there? And outside of the main shows, was there any standout moments or things you got up to on the trip?
So, Watches and Wonders itself is nothing like the Toronto Timepiece Show or what I presume the British Watchmakers is like either, or Wind Up or any of those things. It is an incredibly upscale version of those things. And Mark, you said something on steroids, or so maybe it was you, Bob, but that's what this is like. It's like walking into the highest end mall that you can think of. For example, here in Canada, it might be Yorkdale, for example, and then you make it even more spectacular than that. And this year it was a little scaled back, I felt, from last year, but nonetheless, it still had that incredible vibe of luxury about it. We of course went, and we of course met with a few of the brands, and we had a great time at the Zenith 160th anniversary party. We had a really good time at Tag Heuer. But to be honest with you, and I mentioned this when I was talking with Marc and Adam Kraniotis in the last episode, to me, even more interesting are the things that have popped up and sprouted up around that show. And even though that I know that some of the big players like Rolex don't like that has happened, in many respects, it has turned Geneva into this unbelievable watch bonanza during that period of time. So some of the really cool things, I'll just mention a couple quickly. One was what they call Eisberge. So it's like the word iceberg, but with a slightly different spelling at the end. And that's down near the Berg Hotel, the famous Berg Hotel down by the lake. And there are some incredible independent producers that are there. Some of them are just really first-time watchmakers, like our friend Adam Sawyer from Saskatchewan. And, like one of the guys there, he just finished hand polishing some of the stuff in his watch 2 days before the exposition started. It went from like the 31st of March to the 5th of April, and he was just amazing. And then it went to the far end where you had the Annie Halter there, for example, and he was, showing some of his stuff like the deep space resonance and things, and he even had actually the Ulysse from Alexandre Beauregard that was with him there. And you have other people that were displaying, like Raoul Page, or Pages, I think maybe his name is. And it was the 45th anniversary of something called Anderson Genève, which also make really, really interesting world timers and things like that. So that whole experience is just really something. Like I think the watches there start around 30,000 Swiss francs, and then go to these payments that you can't imagine, So that was really, really, really cool just to see the art that is being produced, because that's really what it looks like. And then Time to Watch is where we spent the majority of our time, because that's sort of the brands. Those are the brands that we deal with. A lot of those brands are in the magazine coming out. A lot of those brands we have, partnerships with on the website and have for a few years. So we go there to kind of like solidify those relationships and then to reach out. And this year they had some independent producers that are just fantastic. So, for example, two that I'd love to mention are Pragma. If you guys get a chance to check out Pragma, they have a wonderful website too, but their watches are just fantastic. They're brand new. Again, very, very high end, but the work that they're doing with their movements, it's like, almost 100% recycled material as well. So very, very interesting. And Goebli. Goebli is an incredible brand, also with its first watch coming out. I believe they call it the Prologue. That was just fantastic. I guess what people don't understand sometimes is that a lot of the big hotels in the area also have their own smaller trade shows. So Beau Rivage is probably the most popular. There's got to be at least 40, 50 brands that are in there. The East West Hotel has some. The Hotel Angleterre has some. And so we spent a lot of time there as well. We met with Doxa while we were there. And then we met with some really, really amazing high-end producers like Lederer timepieces. And the Central Impulse chronometer that he's put together, it's beyond anything that I've ever seen. Vanguard was another really amazing brand, and their orb and the black hole, and just the unbelievable stuff that they're doing, so that was a lot of fun. And then on the other end, I was grabbed at one point by Martin Klocka of Sherpa, and dragged over to the hotel Angleterre so he could show us what he'd been up to. And I think all three of us are sort of tool watch guys. So, just seeing his stuff is just...
The Sherpas
sort of
are
like
really nice.
The top end of the tool watch.
Yeah, I wrote about those in a while. They're beautiful.
They are so nice.
And their bracelets are really well done. They waited for a while to make a bracelet, and when they did, they knocked it out of the park.
Oh, they sure did. They sure did. And beautiful stuff. So yeah, it's just like it's a feast for watch lovers for sure. I mean, and then we were lucky. We decided to stay on a few extra days and do a little bit of traveling and over to France and that sort of thing. But yeah, in terms of watches, that was sort of the heart of it for us.
That's wonderful. Awesome, man. Yeah. So, Marc, any other plans back to the Vancouver show since it's coming right up here? Any other plans while you're out west? There's a few things happening around the event, but anything in particular you're excited about?
Well, before I answer that question, I just wanted to mention that, those shows in Switzerland, when Basel Fair was in full swing in the 2010s, 2015s, the booths at Basel, they'd spend $80,000, $100,000, $150,000 just on the booth. Some of them had multiple floors. I know that when IWC came out with their latest, at the time, Aquatimer, so every year they'd have a different lineup they would produce. So one year was the year of the Portugueser, one year was the year of the Aquatimer, one year was the year of the Spitfire. And when they did the Aquatimer, they had built a submarine in their booth. And then when it was a Spitfire, they built a deck of an aircraft carrier in their booth. I mean, it was unbelievable. But
that's crazy.
If you weren't a member of the press, I don't know how it is at the one that you went to, and you remember the press, so probably had access. But you would go to Basel as a muggle, and you couldn't touch anything. Everything's behind glass. You're not going to get anybody's attention to see anything. So you're just walking around in a room full of humans and barely getting to see things through glass.
Mm. Yeah. I would say it's 50-50, like at Watches and Wonders like that. You have brands that like Baume and Mercier, which were fantastic. Like you could belly up to the bar and try on just about anything. Our son Mateus, who does ad sales and promotions for us, he was with us on this trip, and so he wears a Baume and Mercier. So when they saw that he was already an owner, they treated him like gold. And
that's awesome.
They let him try on some of their like high end gold phonographs that I think they're like 20,000 Swiss francs and things, and he was just over the moon. So yeah,
that's awesome.
So there's that side, and then of course, like you mentioned, there's the other side where you're kind of like shuttled through the Rolex booth and you get to see things behind glass, and it's not really amenable to touching. But yeah, it's both.
Yeah, unlike the shows that we're going to in Vancouver, where you get to speak to the owners of the brands, touch and feel everything, try them on, share opinions. And what am I looking forward to? Obviously, the show itself, but on the side things, we have that VIP Makers media event on Friday evening that I'm really looking forward to, that I missed last year at the Toronto show. So I'm really looking forward to that. On Saturday night, we have a dinner with our friends over there, Dansum, and Richard from Visitor, I think, is going to attend as well. And Caroline's going to be there too with Brent, and it's going to be really, really nice. And then on Sunday evening, there's a marathon TGN / Roldorf. Apparently he's participating as well. And Roldorf is a Zinn authorized dealer and all kinds of other brands that we all like. So that should be pretty fun to that event. And right after that event that finishes at 9, I've got to be on an airplane at 11:20. So it's going to be a whirlwind of a weekend.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm really, really, and I've never been past, like my wife and I in 1999 for our vacation, we loaded up the car and just started driving west. No plan, just started driving west. And we made it all the way to Banff in Alberta, which was awesome. So I've never been further than Banff as far as going Western Canada. I've never seen the Pacific, be it in the States or anywhere else. So I'm really looking forward to going.
Oh, this will be awesome.
Yeah.
You'll get a nice little view of the mountains, I think, from that area where the show's at. Is it North Vancouver? I think it's
North Vancouver.
Yeah. That'll be a good little dose of West Coast for you there for sure, man.
For sure. Can't wait. So now that the release season is in full swing, right? We've got all the new releases that are coming up, and we've seen all the stuff from the Geneva shows and other brands popping stuff up here and there, coming out in the woodworks. Is there anything that you guys have caught your eye that you might be wanting to acquire? Now, I just recently, this week, received the Carlang Diver in bronze from our friend at Carlang. to review, and I took a few pictures, and it is right up Brent's alley. I'm actually afraid to lend it to him because I don't think he's going to let it go. It's the Heritage Diver that Longines made, but probably to the specs and to the likings that Alexandre really wanted, right? It's like, I for the price, and it's under $1,000, I think, for this watch. It's truly phenomenal. The dial color is beautiful. The bronze, it's a copper bronze, not an aluminum bronze, so it's going to age, and it's stunning. That Brent's gonna love it. So for me, for the releases, the Pelagos Ultra, I know, it's a dive watch, and we've seen it before. I truly love it. I love a dome crystal. The fact that they put a dome crystal on that one, like the Sea Dweller. Not the Sea Dweller, the Deep Sea from Rolex has a dome crystal. It's not something that they normally do. Like Tudor doesn't do. They do a box sapphire crystal, but they don't do a dome crystal. Mm-hmm. And they did it for this one. The proportions are a little bit better. The bezel has a little grippier teeth. The crown is a little grippier. Honestly, I can't wait to see that thing in person, and I'm already starting to think of what it can sell to afford it. What about you guys, Brent? What do you got? Was anything cooking on you?
Well, it's interesting, when I was in Geneva, I got a chance to see a few things that hadn't been released yet, but I think it's fair to talk about them. It's not like these are secrets or whatever, but there were a couple of chronographs that are done by Vulcain, and I just love them. They look just like they're fantastic. And anything we've ever had from Vulcain in here for review has always been top shelf. I've never had any issues with quality control or anything. So when I saw those, I really thought that they were something. And still relatively on the affordable end of things. Nevada Gretchen has some really cool stuff that's coming out. In fact, I have one even here today that's sort of that. Is it the F77 or whatever, but in gold? So it's still got the plastic on it. I haven't even unwrapped this thing yet, but this is a pretty nice. That's a pretty nice looking watch. Yeah,
that's gonna look pretty cool with some tattoos.
Yes, it is. Yeah, maybe I should bring that out to the show with me. But they're there, right? Nevada Gretchen is there, so they're gonna have these on hand. They're releasing this week, so that's pretty cool. Awesome. And I guess those are things that I find exciting and in the still the air quote affordable sphere, So I'm pretty pumped about those.
What about you, Bob?
There's a few. I actually really like the Pelagos too. I also I didn't at first, but it's kind of grown on me, the Opaline Black Bay Pro. I like how they outlined the markers in black. It just looks really sharp. But the one that caught my eye, and it's not even so much the watch, but it's the potential of what could come later, is the Grand Seiko, and I wrote the number down because I forget numbers. I can't remember them for the life of me, but SLG B003 has a new high beat, a new spring drive movement. It's plus or minus 10 seconds per day, but it also has the micro adjust. Per month, sorry, yeah, and it also has the micro adjust clasp. Yes, finally. So yes. I'm hoping. I've been sort of going down a GS rabbit hole lately, so I'm hoping to see that clasp make an appearance on some other models, maybe similar.
I'm hoping
watches
they make it available to purchase just the clasp, because I'd love to upgrade my Grand Seiko.
100%. For buying, I haven't. There's nothing new that's really jumping out at me, but I've been looking at the Bond Seamasters. I've seen a few in person. I know you have one, Brent, but I've seen a couple of friends in person lately, and I have many times over the years. But that one just always kind of gives me that good feeling.
Which one? The one on the mesh bracelet or the original?
Like the original, like your exact same as.
Yeah, Brent has the white one.
Yeah, and there's some really good deals on them right now too. So I might pull the trigger on something like that maybe between now and summertime.
Yeah, speaking of Grand Seiko, before that plus minus 10 seconds a month, it's going to be a whole lot better than that. My Grand Seiko is supposed to be plus minus 15 a month. I swear it gains maybe 5 seconds a month, if that. It's just ridiculously accurate, and it doesn't matter if it's crown up, crown down, what I do with it, if it's on the winder, it doesn't make a difference. It's just spectacularly accurate, but I wish it had a better clasp. So if they can make that available, and they interviewed, I think it was Baldassar, Teddy Baldassar. He interviewed the American representative or director for Grand Seiko at the show, right? And then he showed him the bracelet. And that's where I saw the clasp when I got those pictures for the clasp. And he specifically said that it's not going to be available as a part. And then you're going to roll it out at some point. It just broke my heart right there listening to that. Because it is nice. It's beautiful. It does have only 3 micro adjusts, but that's all you need because there's already 2 little half links on those things. And there's 2 half links is slightly bigger than a full link. So it's infinitely adjustable, annoyingly so, because those screws, it's 2 little screw heads that pull out on either side. And then there's a bar in the middle. And those little screw heads are so small.
I have a coffee table just to the right of me here that has these little cracks. It's sort of an antique-y thing. And I had one of those screws end up in one of those cracks in my coffee table. I can barely see the thing. I finally got it out. I damaged the table.
Down the table, under my screw.
Those are the worst. That's the worst bracelet I've ever sized in my life.
Yeah, it took a while to dial it in too, right?
Yeah.
You live with it for a little while. Oh, it's a little too loose. Oh, it's a little too tight. And there's just too many options. I'd rather, like, my IWC has no micro adjust at all. It's either a half link or a full link.
Yeah.
And you just have to live with the way it is. And you get used to it and it's fine. And I have no problem with that. That one too, because all the links can come apart. Like when you pull the pin out, the center link comes apart from the outside links and you can move things around. Also adjustable, like where the half link is it on the other side of the clasp? Does you put it on this side of the clasp? And one of the edges of that link is a little sharper than the full link. So do you want to hide that sharpness within? Yes, we're crazy, us watch collectors. And me, probably even worse than most. So I've taken that bracelet apart like a dozen times now I'm happy with it and I leave it alone. It took me a while. So guys, any other plans of brand events, traveling, mini timepiece shows, anything going on? I know that Bob, you and I talked about a traveling show with the help of Jason and so forth. How's that going?
Jason, we've started a little project. We did our first one on the 10th, a couple of weeks ago now, almost. We're going to be working with brands and doing a monthly meetup just to get watches into people's hands. We have Vario, Isotope is on board, and there's a few more coming. And it's going to be smaller events. Anybody that's sort of in between almost Windsor, Ontario, and Quebec City, if there's anybody that wants to attend these type of things.
Oh, I can get people out for sure.
Yeah, or email me too, timetogo1978@gmail.com, and let me know kind of where you're from. The first one we did was in Kitchener-Waterloo. There's going to be lots of Toronto ones. I think we might do an Ottawa one night and a Montreal, sort of the same weekend, a Friday and a Saturday night. So there's a bunch of little sort of boutique-y shows, but in some interesting the interesting facilities. The first one that we had was in a leather shop that is also a cigar shop. And the guy's a whiskey guy. So when you walk into this place, he has his humidor, first of all, is made out of a giant steel box with an actual ship's door on it with the rotating handle to open it up. You open that up. First of all, it's leather, the smell of fresh leather. Sure. Walk into this thing and it's cedar and filled with cigars. It's just like a mind-numbingly good odor happening in this place. So that was our first one. So we're going to do some interesting locations like that. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that. Mostly, again, in this sort of part of the world. But yeah.
Now, Vario is American, right?
Nope, Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, if you have any American brands I hate to bring this up, but the tariffs and all that stuff going to be an issue with brands bringing their watches into Canada? Or them getting their watches from China to begin with?
Could be a thing. I don't know. We need to wait and see how that all plays out, but hopefully it plays out in a good way soon.
I love the idea that you guys have come up with that for these traveling roadshows, Bob. I love that idea, and the fact that the show you were talking about in Kitchener, I could almost hear Julie Andrews breaking out with a few of my favorite things. That just sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so, it's quite the place.
Wow, that's great. For me, we were supposed to have a trip back to New York City, but that has been postponed. It was another one with Longines. And, earlier, Mark, you said, are we looking forward to anything? A lot of the stuff is under embargo and I can't say anything, but there are going to be some really, really great Longines releases this year.
Fun.
This was supposed to be in and around one of those, and unfortunately, it's been postponed. I don't know if that is a tariff issue or whether it's something else, but there will, I guess, because it's only postponed. I'm assuming it will be revitalized somewhere down the road, so that may occur. But otherwise, like you say, it's for us. We're really gearing up to do the second issue of the magazine. We start in May, reaching out to all the brands, and then full steam ahead to Toronto, like you say.
Very cool.
So this is interesting, Mark, because you've been really busy behind the scenes here. Like I think people realize that you're the guy who gets us the guy. But there's other things that you've been doing behind the scenes recently. And I'm talking particularly about the Discord community that you've established. And I have to admit that for a guy who works in media, I'm not really all that familiar with Discord or how it works. And I suspect that there will be a few of our listeners out there who are in the same boat. So why don't you tell them a little bit about how they can get involved and what it is exactly?
Yeah. When I was writing a lot for Worn and Wound, they started a Slack community online, and it's been very popular. They have about 1,000 members on that, and people participate. There are channels on the Slack community. It's Slack, Worn and Wound plus Slack community. If anybody wants to join, just reach out to Worn and Wound. They'll send you an invite, or you can go to their website. I think there's a link to click through there. And what's really neat is you have different categories in the channels. There's an off-topic channel. There's watch talk, general talk, and new releases. And of course, they promote their wind-up shop. And whenever there's a sale or something, they post on there, along with the wind-up shows and so forth and so on. And I kind of wanted to do something similar for our community. And my kids use Discord. It's probably mostly used for gaming, right? They have friends that they talk about their games, their progresses, and what they're going to do and their campaigns and all this other stuff. And I was looking into it to see if we could do something similar. And I just on a whim, I opened up the community, added our logo, put in a little text, and I, putzing around with it, I realized that I was able to create a news aggregate channel on there where it pulls the feed in real time from all of the blogs, including Time to Calibrate, including Bob's YouTube channel, and all the other ones. So the Worn and Wounds, the Hodinkis, I put probably too many, but it's fun because you go to one place, you don't have to visit all those websites, and then if you see an article that you like, you just click through and it goes to that website and you can read the article. So it's a one-stop shop for your news. We have a long form channel where you can discuss a specific topic, and then it'll collect it as a thread, just like it would on a forum. And then there's just regular watch talk where just anybody can participate all at the same time. We just all talk about watches. And then there's a daily wrist check that members so far have been posting daily shots of whatever they're wearing on their wrists. It's free. It costs nothing. It's just for fun to keep the community going. I've been adding, there's also our podcast obviously has a channel on the Discord where I'll post upcoming guests, what we're working on. I created a page for Bob, so Bob can talk about his projects, the watches he's reviewing, whatever he wants to talk about. I added a page for Brent as well, where he can talk about Calibrated Wrist, what's coming up in the news, a magazine, whatever he wants to. I've got my own little page where I talk about the watches I'm reviewing in the future, what's, what I have on hand, what's going to be coming up. So it's just a place for people to talk. Richard Martel is one of our friends on that Discord, and he said this is great because this way we have a place to talk about the podcast if we have questions or future guests or suggestions. It's a one place for all that to show up instead of reaching out to either one of us individually or not knowing where to reach out to, or even reaching out to our channel, not our channel, but our Instagram page for our show. This is just a little easier, right? And Discord is free. Like I said, it's an app you can download on your phone, on your computer. It's been fun. So far, we have 15, 20 members, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's not much. It's just started, but it's active. I mean, people are on there all the time. So, and that's awesome. Jamie from Newfoundland's on there too, daily.
I have to get, since you set that up a couple of weeks ago, I've just had like a crazy busy few days, and so I got to do a deep dive on this. I think
it's been really busy for all of us, right?
Yeah, I'm like Brent. I don't have any or much experience. No experience really with Discord. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting a little bit more of that here soon.
Yeah, it'll be less Discordy than the stuff that my kids play on. It'll be more like a forum. I've moderated many forums in the past. I spent a lot of time on the Warner Wild Slack community, helping them grow that at the beginning. Although a couple more things, Discord can host live events on camera. So hopefully when we get enough community members, I'd like to host it once a week on a Friday night, have a couple of drinks and talk to people about watches and hang out on Discord. We can do that. And there's something else I used to do on the forums way back in the day. I used to host games where I would take a bunch of pictures, random watches, and I'd remove the names of the watches on the watch themselves, like just take them, remove them. And then you had to guess what brand it is and what model it is. And back in the day, I used to give away a subscription to the magazine I was writing for. We'll figure something else out, but just for fun or bragging rights. And I did it a couple of times on the Slack community in Warner Wild, and it was quite popular. So I'm going to bring that over to our neck of the woods and onto our Discord community. So that should be fun. I'm going to wait until we have more members. I mean, 15 people. It's not enough. We need more. So if you guys want to join, reach out to me on Instagram or send us an email, timetocalibrate@gmail.com, and I'll send you guys an invite.
Very cool.
I just want to circle back to one thing. We didn't close the circle on one little thing before we end the episode, and that is the Christopher Ward release.
That's right. I skipped that question. My bad. Let me do it. So basically, Christopher Ward's been teasing a new watch for the last few days, and they're using superlatives like, it's the most this, it's our best this, it's going to be our biggest hit this. And boy, you got to be really careful when you're using stuff like that and you're talking like that, because if it isn't exactly that, then you're going to have egg on your face.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen it. I've tried to get it out of Chris, Popping Crowns, my buddy. He's had it for a while on his wrist. He's taking pictures with it hidden, blurred out on his wrist. And it's killing me. And the fact that they're calling it freewheeling, is that it? Freewheeling. Yeah. My guess at the time was that it's going to be a tourbillon, that they're going to democratize the tourbillon like they did the chiming mechanism, right? Bring it to the masses, a $4,000 tourbillon. But apparently it's not that. But I don't know. I mean, something that has to do with the balance spring that's going to be independent or something. I don't know. But I'm very excited about it.
I think it's just going to be a holograph of Bob Dylan's face, actually. That's why it's called the tourbillon.
You press the button and it sings the song. Yeah, that's it.
Now, Bob probably knows the story on this, so I want to take a guess before he trumps us on this. But I'm going to guess it is a free sprung balance, and that you'll be able to see it. And I'm guessing that it's going to be in the 12, that it's going to come in the 12 line, maybe.
No, I don't think it's a 12 line. And Bob, you know what? You can't spill the beans because
I actually can't answer any of this stuff. Okay, I'll tell you one thing right now. When I went into the little showroom,
Bob,
I'm not answering nothing to do with this one,
because we're not going to say anything to anybody, and this is only coming out next week, and it's coming out tomorrow. The watch. So technically, you're not really spilling the beans to anyone but Brent and I.
Well, I was told and Jason was there, we were threatened with our lives if anything come out. I'm not even kidding. We would be in big trouble. I'm going to just say this, so it's a little bit of a surprise to you guys. You guys are both pretty close, and I think this could be like a bel canto level of I think. Okay. You never know how people react. In my eyes, yeah.
I would think that instead of doing the shots of Adam and Mike and Andrew McCutcheon swearing and freaking out over the watches and teasing that, it's taking such a gamble on whether or not people are going to like it or not, right? Or is it going to sell? Yeah. I mean, when they did the 12 skeleton, right?
Yeah.
With their in-house movement, that was supposed to be huge. And the major response was $4,000 for Christopher Ward.
Yeah.
That was the response. And I remember defending that watch because I wrote about it on Warner Wound, the release, and I defended it and showing that, the next closest thing is the Oris Pro Pilot X with the skeletonized movement. And it's not anywhere near as finished as well as the Christopher Ward watch. And the Christopher watch is $2,000 less.
Mm-hmm.
But people, they still have it in their mind. Now, Bel Canto is doing well because that is, again, a mechanism and something you would never see in a watch price at that price point. Now, them doing all these superlatives and really pushing the envelope on this is going to be the best. This is it's honestly, it's scaring me because we all love Christopher Ward. None of us want to see them fall flat on their faces. And I hope it's going to be a spectacular release. And I can't wait to see it. And I'm pissed, Bob, that you didn't tell us what it is.
You'll find out. I think they're going to do well.
Find out tomorrow.
Yep.
Well, I really feel like
Bob, does it help if I tell you today is my birthday?
It's today your birthday?
Today is my birthday, so you should tell me as a gift for my birthday.
Maybe
happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well, it was awesome catching up with you guys. We've got some packing to do. I'm sure you guys do too. And getting ready to leave here in the next couple of days. But good catching up, and can't wait to see you guys in person.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Can't wait.
See you guys soon.
Time to Calibrate is available anywhere you find good podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please do hit like and subscribe. We'd also love to hear from you in the comment section. Until next time, thanks for listening.